So you go every day under hypnosis naturally. The stage hypnosis that we see, like the Hollywood thing, it's called stage hypnosis and it's a show. But the natural hypnosis, you go every day. You know, when you go from point A to point B and you don't know how you were there, you say, oh, how did I got here? You were in the natural alpha state of hypnosis. When you just before you go to bed and you fall asleep, just before you wake up in the morning, you are in that natural state of hypnosis. It's the alpha brain, the alpha mode. Okay. So in that state, that's where kids are until the age of 6 or 7. Kids live in that stage. You know, when they play cowboy, they really are a cowboy. When they play fireman, they really are a fireman. They're not thinking they're playing. They really are. They're really enacting it. When you are under hypnosis, you are in that state. Basically, 3 things happen under hypnosis. The first one is you have the ability to lower your sense of hypervigilance. So you stop hearing the voices telling you that you're not good enough, you're not bright enough, this is not available to you, this is not for you, blah, 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 blah. All the negative self, the score low really goes down. So that allows you to hear the real thing and to connect to everything that's in your subconscious mind. The other thing that you can do under hypnosis is kind of dissociate yourself and look at your situation very differently. So I use a lot with my entrepreneurs when they are stuck in a problem, in a business problem, and they can look at it from different perspective, just like if you would see an accident from a different point and see the different way. So it's very good for creativity. So you have a dissociation. You see your problem, your issues in a very different way. You see yourself in a very different way. And it's also very interesting to induce things in your body like anxiety, like lower anxiety. You can also, anything that has to do with public speaking. So anything that has to do with body sensation. You want to be calm, you want to present and like be enthusiastic and everything. So is that clear?
Yes, perfectly. And I think what I hear you saying from an entrepreneur's perspective, something that I have taught forever is that you have to be able to look at things unemotionally, set those emotions aside. There's no money in business as an entrepreneur if you're going to be emotional. This idea that, we watch these shows where they make cars or motorcycles and everybody's throwing wrenches at each other and the camera follows the guys through the door while the door gets slammed, or the chef of the restaurant is screaming at everybody. It makes for good television. It does not make for good business. And so I always say that you have to have this unemotional detachment to your business so that you can look at it critically in a way. I'll have employees that will have worked for a month on a project, bring it to the front, we deploy it, and it didn't work. And I go, no, take it down, 2 days later, go try again, learn what we did wrong, figure out why it didn't go out the way it did, what didn't we know. You can always bring it back. They want to fight on it though and say, no, we have to put it out because we spent a month doing it. I said, no, that's emotional. You're not seeing the forest for the trees here. Is that sort of what we're talking about, is a disassociation from the emotion of it so that we look at what we're doing critically, either positively or negatively, depending on what the circumstances are?
Yes, that's a very good example. So basically you go and you find out what is the internal story you're telling yourself. You can see it. You can see what you're telling yourself. So this person who look at the project and say, where could I have done differently? They will see it clearly and they will see different options. So that's one thing. It could be really concrete. It could be somebody that's afraid of public speaking. I have a lot of people who really are afraid of public speaking. They don't sleep like months if they know they have to present in front of people, because they're hearing people, all kinds of things. People are going to laugh about me. I'm going to be stupid, blah, blah, blah. They hear things that were formed a long time ago and that they still think that it's true. So they still think that today it's going to happen again. People are going to laugh at them and this is going to happen again. So what we do under hypnosis is we find the inner dialogue, we interrupt it, and we reprogram for what the person wants.
Along the same lines, it's more the physical parts rather than the mental, and I'm no expert, so please tell us what that is.
Exactly. It's really about understanding, how do you feel? What are the effect on your body? How can you tell if I'm comfortable with you, if you're comfortable with me, how does that feel inside? So it's really more working about the body sensation to help people break through and move through. So I use a bit of somatic, a lot of hypnosis, a lot of coaching, hypno coaching, and I put them all on a platform together.
The somatic therapy seems to be picking up steam. Um, I mean, I had just been hearing about it the last couple of years, but it sounds like it's been 4 or 5 years, maybe 10 years that it's really started coming into the mainstream. Why is that becoming so popular?
I think people realize that for so many years, we kind of separated the brain and the rest of the body. Like if there was something cut, like if there was a big line here and it was cutting the two. And the more and more research really show how both communicate and how the body reads the information way faster than the brain. So it's really about also being able to use your full skills, which includes the skills of reading the information and understanding and growing and transforming through your body as much as your brain, and really combining the two.
Let me ask you this. I kind of understand this, I think, in a way, but I don't know if it's the same thing. 4.5 years ago, I have a 40% block in my left ventricle that I was born with. I didn't know about. It popped up in my 40s. I've been hospitalized since 2017 to 2022, 61 times. I've been cardioverted 24 times. I've been chemically converted for AFib dozens and dozens of times. And I was 308 pounds. I broke my back when I was 19 years old. I had a 25-year opioid addiction. And that was November 21st of 21. I was down 4 pints of blood laying in Williamson County Hospital here in Tennessee, dying on my way out. And I said, I'm not dying like this. I've been through too much to go out this way. The question is, I lost 100 pounds over the next 8.5 months. And now 4 years later, I'm in the best shape of my life at 57 years old. I'd guess I'm probably one of the best fit 57-year-olds in the country. But my mindset with that change, mentally, not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally and spiritually, all of those things have gone up to almost a superpower almost. My wavelength, I'm operating at a level, I hear my body and understand it so much better. But along with it, I hear my brain so much better. I hear I'm a better husband and a better dad, and I'm a better friend, and I'm a better employer, and I'm a better worker, and I'm a better entrepreneur because my health is as good as it is. Obviously, not everybody can do what I've done or has done what I've done, I should say. But is there some connection there to what I'm talking about, getting in kind of the shape that I'm in and really leveling up across the board on all of those parts?
Yeah, somatic is not so much about the shape, but it's the shape of the thing that you care for. It's becoming the shape of the things you care for. So in a way, yes, but let's say I do care about giving. I do care about presenting to people. I do care about whatever it is that I do care about. How can I transform my shape physically to embody what I really want to become? So in a way, yes, right? The idea is that there's a sequence, is that the thoughts bring you an emotion, the emotion brings you an action, and the action brings you your life circumstances. I suspect you have firmly the belief that if you put your energy into something, you succeed. That's a
Yes.
belief that's very ingrained into you. That puts you into certain kind of emotions, that brings you in certain kind of action, right? And that positive belief that you have becomes a propeller to a lot of things in your life. It becomes central. So you ended up embodying somebody who really believes that if he puts his energy into something, it becomes this thing and he succeeds.
Yeah, I think you described it to a T. I would say I've always described it as, and maybe this is wrong, as my, from you come from where I come from, my unemotional state of being, which is I am very unemotional, is a huge asset to me in my entrepreneurial endeavors, and also my belief coming off the streets like I did that regardless of what's going to happen to me, and I have lost fortunes, I've made them also, that I'm always going to come out on top.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you probably say, Put me naked on the street and come back in a month and I'll be in a house and I'll have a company
Right.
built, right?
Right.
And that
Right.
belief brings you. So if I ask you, when you think about that belief inside, when you say that, what kind of emotion does that bring you?
At this point, when I was younger, it was more of a brag. I think it meant more of a response from me. As I remember today, when I say it, it just is reality because I have enough experience to know that if I need to zig, I'm never worried about if I have to zag because I've got enough experience to figure it out over here the same as I would if I continued on going the same direction. So I don't know that I would say it's a now these days an emotional response at all. It's just a reality because if I don't do this, I'll just go do that.
When you realize that this is becoming now your kind of motto, like that's kind of the source of all your success. That's kind of the source of the things that you're succeeding at, right?
Mhm.
So how can you embody this? And that's what you did. You basically transform yourself to represent that belief that you had that is very strong.
And I think for me, that comes from, I'll just put my cards on the table. My childhood was as brutal as anybody's ever going to have, from, like I said, shot, stabbed, beaten, violence, starving, living on the streets on a $25 a week flop house at 17 years old with hookers and heroin addicts, a 25-year opioid addiction. I'm talking 150 milligrams a
Mm.
day of oxymorphone and of morphine, and I mean really heavy because I broke my back when I was 19 years old, and so I blind in one eye, and I have all these stories and all of this history that I had, but I am who I am despite where I come from and because of where I come
Mhm.
from, right? And
Mhm.
I get asked on these all of the time on podcasts, and I say, I'm not a victim. I've never been a victim. What is my trick? I don't have a trick. I just said I'm never going to be a victim and that I have agency. And I realized agency as a very young man. But I'll tell you a really quick story. I think you'll like this. I got beat up taking money out of a bank when I was 14 years old. 6 months before my parents had 6 kids when they were 23 years old. I came along 7 years later. So my next sister up 7 years ahead of me was like a mother to me. She was the babysitter. She died on her 21st birthday when I was
Mm.
13 years old. And 4 months later, I went blind in my right eye from a virus, almost lost my left eye, had that eye laser surgery and all these other things, very rudimentary, 1983. And so here I am in August of that year, and I get beaten taking money out of the bank. 4 guys put it to me pretty good. They roll me under a bus, break my nose, break 2 ribs, leave my eyes black, bleeding down my front. I take a couple of buses to walk home, and I have a 2 mile walk. And as I stepped, Portland, Oregon, as I stepped on this oversized square in the sidewalk, which is still there to this day, I go, when I'm back in Portland, at least every other trip I visit it, and I will literally stand on it. It meant this much to me. Beaten the way that I was, there's a set of duplexes to my right, and a female voice behind my head back here said to me in that state, everything is your fault. If you don't take responsibility for everything that happens to you, you're going to be like everybody else. And it said, no one's going to help you. Now, I answered like I thought someone was yelling at me from the duplex next to me, but they weren't. And so I answered it. I said, I didn't do anything. And the voice just said, it's all your fault. So that stuck with me. It didn't get me out of trouble, and it wasn't a hockey stick. I didn't change immediately, but it changed my life by the time 28 came along and my first son was born and I was starting my first business and all of that. Everything is your fault. So my key to this is that everything that has happened to me is my fault. What can I learn about it? Look at it unemotionally, take it, use it, grow from it, throw out what I don't need, keep what I can, learn from what I need to learn from, and then continue to level up. And I've done some pretty spectacular things, I guess, relative to where I come from. I'm a 15-year-old, I dropped out of high school at 15 years old, but that really has guided my life, is that everything is my fault. And
Mm.
so I take the agency from everybody and I bring it back to myself so no one holds that over me. And I've been pretty militant about that for most of my life. And so kind of with that background is why I was so intrigued to listen to you or to talk to you today, because not everybody has that. In fact, it's very frustrating for me. Very few people seem to have it, but I want people to be able to get to the same end point right? And maybe necessarily they've got to do it a different way. And I don't want to be so ideologically locked down and say my way is the only way to do it, because I think there are some other ways to do it. And just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it doesn't work for others.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about the my fault. I 100% behind the idea because I don't subscribe to victim posture. I think we can be
Mhm.
victims of things. It's can be victimized of something. It happens. It's a word and it's a reality. But then the posture you take is different. I don't, I don't really adopt victim posture. I don't. They don't. Those clients, they don't come to me either. They don't. Not very comfortable with me. They're really usually not very attracted to me as a hypno coach. But I'd rather, I don't know, I'd like to find another word than my fault. I don't know which word I would have, but I would think about a word that is, I don't know, that is more inspiring than my fault. If you'd like to help people adopt this point of view, that's my take. I don't know.
If two people end up at the same spot, they're great husbands or wives or parents, or they're, healthy and successful and fulfilled, however people define that. Everybody has a different definition for that. But one gets there through communication and, let's say, the different modalities for therapy, and the other one maybe through the way that I did it or some other way. Is one path better than the other, do you
I
think?
don't know. I don't think so. I think we don't heal really in therapy. Like we learn things, we learn tools, we experience things, but then it's really in contact with real life that it becomes true. You can go meditate in a cave for 100 days. I mean, if you want to work your patience, and then you're going to come back and you're going to be as impatient as you were the first time somebody's going to do something that annoys you. This is not where you're going to transform. You transform in contact of people in real life. But I think therapy and coaches and support people, they bring you tools. They also bring you a space where you can try things, where you can experiment things, where you can bounce ideas. And in the case of hypnosis, actually, you do live under hypnosis. I'm going to give you an example. I have this entrepreneur who sold the business and he's very young. And he came to me thinking, I don't have the right to be happy. This is how he was brought up. I don't have the right to be happy. That was a thought he has in his mind. And it was, and he was having all those millions coming his way and thinking, am I having all this money? I'm below 40 and I'm not happy. That's that's not going to help me. That's not the life that I want. Like I want to be able to sell this business and be happy. So we worked at that belief that I don't have the right to be happy, which eventually transformed. And now he's sold and he's building a new life and is finding a new purpose. So sometimes, so under hypnosis, what we did is we'd had him walk his new life, waking up being happy, going to bed being happy. And then every day he had exercise and things to do. And slowly but surely, now he's in a very different posture. So it's not in our session that he transformed. It's when he went back into his business, when he went back to negotiation, when he went back to his wife, when he was back and tried all those new things that slowly he transformed.
I want everyone to hear your answer, because I want open minds when it comes in particular to entrepreneurs to go and talk to people, whoever that might be. And what you just said about therapy, I want people to hear that again, if you would. Therapy is not going to fix you. It's going to give you tools. You were much more eloquent than I was. If you would say that one more time, please.
Yes. So when you are in therapy, this is where you learn tools. This is a safe space to experience an experiment thing. This is also somebody as a soundboard. And it's also a way to go and kind of strategize how you want to transform, what you want to transform. More than 50% of my clients are men. And they come to me for all kinds of different reasons. Sometimes they just want to be better at communicating with people around them. Sometimes it's as simple as that. But the idea is that they're not becoming better with me. They're becoming better when they go to their wife. They're becoming better when they go to their kids, when they go to their partner, their business partner, because they go back with this tool, with this thing with practice under hypnosis. Because when you practice it under hypnosis, for your brain, it already happened. So it already happened. It becomes familiar. So you've done it 2 or 3 times already. So when you do it the 4th time, you're much more familiar. It's much easier for you. It's the same thing as presenting in public. You've done it under hypnosis. For your brain, you have done it in front of 3,000 people. They loved you. They clapped their hand. They came after and they say, wow, you're amazing. But it's not under hypnosis that you became the best eloquent person. It's when you went out there and practiced.
You're not willing to put in the work. Hypnotherapy is going to be a tough slog for you because it's not going to fix for you what's broken. You got to put the work in.
Yeah. And I don't believe that things are really broken. I believe that things are the best way they are, the way they are. Like somebody like you who has had battled addiction, like that's severe. That's a tough one to, to be able to overcome on your own. So I believe that we were not necessarily broken. You were at the stage that you were at that point, and you overcame that